pretty much expected given the constraints that the government is operating under and the need for it to secure another IMF program. The tax rebate that was offered to higher education professionals, in particular those academics and researchers who were employed by public sector universities, as well as in registered non-profit private universities. Overall, the education budget has, it reflects the persisting financial constraint that the government is operating under. This comment is on the education budget and obviously the overall budget that's been released by the federal government. Overall, the education budget has, it reflects the persisting financial constraint that the government is operating under. Currently, the government is attempting to raise revenue from all sorts of sources as possible. And that is reflected in the way that the education budget, has also been designed. Social sector spending is often the first victim under such fiscal constraints because it is not useful for credit claiming as far as politics is concerned, right? So in comparison to, say, infrastructure spending, which is visible, education and health budgets are usually the first to receive sort of cuts and stagnation when the state is operating under a larger fiscal constraint. On the specifics, we'll start off with the higher education budget. The PSDP allocation for development schemes under higher education is at 66 billion rupees, of which 18 billion is for new schemes. This is a sort of considerably smaller amount than what was demanded. The HEC actually put forward a request for 128 billion rupees. But it appears that just under half of that has been granted by the federal government. The recurring education budget is actually 2 billion rupees less than what it was last year. So last year, the expenditure on education under the revised estimates was on higher education was 81 billion, but this time recurring budget expenditure has been budgeted at 79 billion. Islamabad's spending on local education, that's primary and secondary education, is around 25 billion, which represents an increase of about 6 to 7 billion. The real sort of bulk of education spending takes place at the level of the provinces. The provincial budgets will definitely be worth looking at. Punjab has already released its budget. Here, the education budget is expected to be 669 billion in total, of which 65 billion is for development related spending, while the rest is to meet current expenditure. This is about 12% of the total budget outlay of the province of Punjab. Sindh is expected to spend about 322 billion overall, which is about 9.7% of the provincial budget. KP had already announced its budget 2 weeks ago. And that has a figure of 326 billion for spending on education, which is about 18% of total government spending. Balochistan still has is yet to sort of pass a budget and is yet to sort of make its figures public. There are a number of other issues pertaining to education that are worth pointing out as far as the federal government's budget is concerned. The first is that sales tax on books and newsprint has been increased. And that in itself is a pretty significant sort of blow to education-related spending in particular. Obviously, that means that there will be an inflationary impact on the price of books, textbooks, and other books as well. Similarly, the sales tax rate on laptops has increased, which is, again, as we know, laptops are a pretty significant educational tool these days. And so there is bound to be an increase in laptop prices because of this new, because of this measure to increase the sales tax rate. And finally, the tax rebate that was offered to higher education professionals, in particular those academics and researchers who were employed by public sector universities, as well as in registered non-profit private universities. They previously used to receive a 25% concession on their income tax bill. That concession has been removed, and so now they will have to pay the full amount based on obviously their gross salaries. This is again a part of a larger step to increase the income tax burden on salaried professionals, which has already received significant attention. Specifically, the fact that the rate of increase in effective taxation has been higher for the middle strata of the salaried class as opposed to the higher strata here. So, again, overall, I think this was pretty much expected given the constraints that the government is operating under and the need for it to secure another IMF program. And so I think the fact that there simply hasn't been any significant effort to broaden the tax base to increase new sources of revenue, that failing is reflected in a stagnant higher education budget. Universities are already experiencing a pretty significant crunch, and so this is bound to increase their troubles over the next year or so.